Alright, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video, I'll be showing you how to make this very cool cat and mouse game. Let's get right into it. So to start off here, we're going to just go ahead and delete your sprite 1, and then go ahead and open up your sprite library and search cat2, and then bring that guy into the game. And then next up, we're going to give him some code, so we have our simple movement system for our cat. We're going to say when green flag clicked, and then drag in a forever loop. We're going to be constantly pointing towards the mouse pointer. And then below that, you're going to drag in an if then statement. Drag that in. And then we're going to do if mouse down, then we're going to move 5 steps. And once you do that, we can go into our game and see how it runs. And then we have our nice movement system down, and we can go on and add our mouse into the game. Just open up the sprite library once again, search up mouse. Right there, you're just going to select mouse 1, and then we can give him code to detect if he is touching our cat sprite. So we're going to put in another when green flagged clicked event block, and then underneath it, a forever loop. And then inside that forever loop, an if-then statement. We're going to say, if we're touching the cat, then we are going to go to a new random position. So we're going to respawn whenever we touch our cat sprite. Open up the game, see how it works. And then just like that, we have our game, our main system pretty much down. And then we're going to go back into the cat sprite. Something I noticed is our sprites are a little bit too big, so we need to make them smaller so they have more room to run around on the stage and it looks more natural. That is so much better, so now we have more room to run around on our stage. And the next step, we're going to create our scoring system, so go to make a new variable and then write score. For your new variable name, hit OK. And then next up, we're going to do when green flag clicked, we're going to reset our score variable back to 0. And then if we're touching the cat too, we're going to change our score variable by 1. We're going to see how this works. So now we can keep score of how many mice we've caught, which is an excellent start. And then we're going to go to our backdrop and then create our timer system. So hit make a variable and call your new variable time left. And then drag in a when green flag clicked block. We're going to set our time left variable to 30, which is going to represent 30 seconds. So the game will consist of 30-second rounds, and you're going to see how many mice you can catch in those 30 seconds. So drag in a repeat block, and then say repeat 30. And then we're going to do wait 1 second. And then we're going to change our time left variable by -1. Just like that. And then underneath this, we're going to broadcast a new message. So drag that in there, and then create new message, and then call it just something like game over. We're going to use this later in our process of developing this game. For now, we're going to go check out our timer system and see how that's looking. It's looking pretty good, so we have our timer down, we're keeping score. So next up, we need to have our cat and mouse detect when the game is over. And for this, we're going to have it receive the game over message. And then once it does, we're going to have it stop the other scripts in the sprite. So this is going to stop the player from being able to move the cat after the timer's up. And then we're just going to do the same thing in our mouse 1 sprite. When I receive game over, stop other scripts in sprite. So we're just going to fast forward through the game really quick so you can see what happens when the timer expires. We're going to bring it back here, and then once our timer runs out, just like that, our cat stops. Nice. And then for our next step, when our cat detects if the game is over, we're going to have him tell you game over and then say how many mice you caught. So for this, we're going to stack 2 join blocks. We're going to write game over, you caught, and this is important, make sure to have a space between the words and the variable so it looks more natural like it's regular writing. And then write mice, and then do not forget that space before the word. And then once again, we're going to fast forward through the game and then see what happens after the timer runs out. There you go, game over, you caught 23 mice. And then we have 2 costumes for our mouse here that we can work with. So what we're gonna have happen is we're gonna have it constantly cycle through our mouse costumes, just so it looks more natural and like it's a real mouse in the real world. So we're gonna do forever, next costume, and then wait 0.2 seconds. And then as you can see, we have our mouse acting like a real mouse, is moving his legs and wagging his tail. Nice. And then I think we're gonna need a backdrop so it looks more realistic and polished. So just search up playing field and you're gonna click that one into the game. Convert it to vector as a first step. And then what you're gonna do is you're going to resize it and then just move it down with the arrow keys first. And then stretch it vertically here. Just like that. And then click and drag back to the center of the stage. And then you're going to resize this backdrop so it fits better on the stage. And just like that, our game is almost done. It's looking really polished. But now we need to have some limits on where the mouse can spawn. So we don't want it to spawn behind our score variable and our time left variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag a repeat until block onto our go to random position. And then we're going to repeat looking for a random position until we're not touching the cat and until our Y position is less than 100. Just like that. And then once we finish this, we're going to run the game again and see how it works and if there's any more bugs we need to work out. So it's looking good now, but there's a problem where the mouse jitters around, but we have a way to fix that. Go to My Blocks and then make a block and then call it Respawn. And the important part is to click Run Without Screen Refresh, like that. And then we're going to define our respawn. We're going to drag in the repeat until loop and then drag the respawn block under the change score by 1. And then we're going to run our game once again and see how it works. And then you can see here that it's working very nicely and that it's just snapping to its next position. And that is it for this tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you next time. Bye.